September 1940. Washington, D.C. The city hums softly under a late summer haze, unaware of how close the war already is. Streetcars rattle past monuments built for older victories. Inside Arlington Hall, the windows are darkened, the corridors quiet except for the faint scrape of shoes and the rustle of paper. The room smells of ink, sweat, and stale coffee, human effort distilled into air. On long tables, stacks of German radio intercepts rise like a silent accusation. Symbols march across the pages in disciplined rows. Perfect, cold, unforgiving. The cipher does not shout. It waits. Here, the U.S. Army's cryptographic elite work in near silence. Men and women bent over desks, pencils worn short, eyes red from sleepless arithmetic. They are mathematicians, linguists, chess players of the unseen war. Most believe the system in front of them is unbreakable, too elegant, too symmetrical, a machine-designed fortress of logic. The German army has always loved precision, and this cipher reflects that love with almost cruel beauty. Outside this room, the Atlantic is already filling with wreckage. The intercepts arrive faster every night. Radio chatter pulled from the air like whispers stolen mid-breath. Messages about troop movements, supply convoys, U-boat positions, if only they could be read. But instead, the symbols mock them. Letters that refuse to behave. Patterns that almost appear, then vanish. The equations say no. The textbooks say impossible. And yet the war does not pause for academic certainty. They were trained to trust mathematics, to believe that every system, no matter how complex, must obey rules. But war has a way of exploiting faith. The conflict here is not loud. No gunfire, no explosions, just a quiet terror of not knowing. Each unread message represents ships already sailing blind into ambush. Sailors standing on steel decks, unaware that somewhere, in a locked room in Washington, the answers are buried beneath layers of assumption. The cipher refuses to break because it was never meant to be broken by comfort. It is believed airtight because everyone agrees it should be, because German engineers were meticulous, because Allied analysts have run the numbers 1,000 ways and found no flaw. The machine's logic loops perfectly. Each key press alters the next. Each day resets the system. The math is flawless on paper, but paper does not drown. Men do. One analyst pauses, pencil hovering. He has been staring at the same strip of symbols for hours. His coffee is cold. His hands shake slightly, not from fear, but from exhaustion. He notices something small, not a solution, not even a pattern, just an irregularity, a hesitation in the rhythm of the text, a place where the symbols feel human. He does not say out loud. This is how doubt enters the room, quietly, without permission. The rising action is not a breakthrough, but a refusal to look away. The analysts begin to question not the cipher, but themselves. What if the mistake isn't in the machine, but in the assumptions surrounding it? What if elegance is a liability? What if perfection breeds predictability? They work longer hours. Nights blur into mornings. Chalkboards are erased, and filled again. Short sentences scribbled in margins. Long theories abandoned halfway through. There is courage here, though no one would call it that. Courage looks different when it's seated at a desk at 3 in the morning, choosing to doubt the consensus. Outside, ships continue to vanish. One woman folds her intercept pages carefully before leaving each night, as if the paper itself might break if treated roughly. Another hums softly while calculating, a tune from before the war, before the world narrowed to symbols and stakes. These small habits become anchors, proof that they are still human, even as the work demands something colder. The pressure builds not from command, but from silence. No one says the cost aloud. No one needs to. Every unread message is a ghost waiting to be born. The climax does not arrive with applause. It comes with inevitability. Someone notices that the cipher assumes discipline, that it assumes operators never make mistakes, never repeat themselves, never fall back on habit. But humans do, especially tired ones, especially in war. The realization is fragile, almost heretical. What if the flaw is not mathematical, but psychological? What if the machine is perfect, but the men using it are not? They test the idea carefully, like touching cracked ice. They look for repetition where repetition should not exist. Common phrases, routine signals. The smallest cracks begin to widen. A word here, a structure there. Nothing decisive, but enough. The cipher does not shatter. It yields, slowly, reluctantly, as if offended by being understood. There is no cheering, only a long exhale, a sense of gravity shifting. They know this is not victory, just the opening of a door that will demand everything they have. And yet, something has changed. The symbols no longer mock. They whisper. The resolution comes not with medals, but with momentum. The work accelerates. More messages begin to speak. Routes are adjusted. Convoys rerouted. Ships still sink, but fewer. The ocean does not forgive, but it pauses. Arlington Hall remains quiet. The analysts return to their desks each morning, knowing they have bought time with nothing more than persistence and doubt. Their names will not be shouted. Their faces will not appear in newspapers. Their victory is invisible by design. What was gained is measured in lives that never knew they were spared. What was lost is harder to count. The hours, the certainty, the illusion that brilliance alone wins wars. And what was forgotten is perhaps the most important truth of all, that even the strongest systems are built by people, and people are always imperfect. The cipher that refused to break did not fail because it was weak. It failed because humanity found a way inside it. History often remembers battles and generals, dates and declarations. It rarely remembers rooms like this one. Rooms where the war was fought in pencil marks and quiet defiance. Where victory arrived not as noise, but as understanding. The lights go out at Arlington Hall. The papers remain, waiting, because the next message is already in the air. Late September 1940. Washington, D.C. The room at Arlington Hall has not changed. The same long tables. The same chalk dust ground into the floorboards. The same silence, heavy now with fatigue. Outside, autumn is beginning to press its thumb against the city. Cooler mornings, shorter light. But inside, time has stalled. Paper still piles high. Ink still stains fingers. The war still waits. At the far end of the room, a young woman sits alone. She does not command attention. No rank announces her presence. No advanced degree shields her from dismissal. Her name is Genevieve Grotjan, and she works with a pencil worn flat on one side, the wood polished smooth by anxious fingers. Her desk is smaller than most. Her stack of intercepts thinner. Not because the work is less important, but because no one expects much to come of it. The cipher has already earned its reputation. Too strong, too refined, too German to be careless. Senior cryptanalysts chase abstractions now. Deep theories, layered permutations, machine logic battling machine logic. The work is impressive, complex, loud in its own way. Genevieve works quietly. She does not try to outthink the cipher. She studies it, line by line, page by page, pencil moving steadily, almost tenderly across the margins. She circles repetitions that others ignore, notes small inconsistencies, a letter where another might appear, a pause where there should be none. Her pencil smudges the paper, leaving ghosts of erased thoughts behind. She listens to the silence. The conflict here is subtle but absolute. It is the conflict between scale and intimacy, between brilliance that seeks elegance and patience that tolerates mess. The cipher has defeated machines because machines expect logic to behave. Genevieve expects people to be people. She has no formal mathematical pedigree to protect her instincts, no equations to hide behind. What she has instead is time spent watching others make assumptions, time spent noticing what gets overlooked, time spent trusting her own discomfort when something does not sit right. The repetition is wrong, not mathematically wrong, humanly wrong. She sees it in the way certain fragments recur, not exactly the same, but familiar, like a phrase someone uses without realizing it, like a habit, a shortcut taken too often. The German operators are supposed to reset the system perfectly each day. The manuals insist on it. The math depends on it. But Genevieve has watched people. She knows how fatigue bends discipline, how routine dulls vigilance, how even the best trained hands slip into patterns when no one is watching. She leans closer to the page. The rising action does not announce itself. There is no sudden clarity, no cinematic rush, just a tightening in her chest, a sense that she is standing at the edge of something fragile. She traces the symbols again, counts, recounts. The pencil moves faster now, then stops. Her breath catches. There it is, a flaw not in the machine, but in the logic governing its use. A predictable human error embedded so deeply in the system that everyone else has mistaken it for structure. The cipher assumes perfection. It assumes obedience. It assumes fear will sharpen discipline rather than erode it. But fear exhausts. The breakthrough is instantaneous once seen, undeniable, like realizing the room has been tilted all along. The repetitions align. The logic folds inward. What was opaque becomes translucent, not fully readable yet, but vulnerable. Genevieve sits back, heart pounding. The room around her continues unchanged. Chairs scrape. Papers shuffle. Somewhere a clock ticks. No one looks up. She brings her findings forward carefully. Not loudly, not triumphantly, just facts neatly arranged. She explains the pattern, the human mistake, the implication. Some listen, some do not. A few nod politely, already preparing to return to their abstractions. Then someone tests it. Silence stretches. The results confirm everything. The cipher yields again. Faster this time. Cleaner. The door that was cracked in the previous days swings wider, and beyond it lies a flood of readable traffic. Orders. Coordinates. Timetables. The war exhales. There is no applause. The institution absorbs the breakthrough the way it absorbs everything, quietly, efficiently, without ceremony. The discovery is filed, integrated, passed upward. The work accelerates. The machine rooms grow louder. The analysts grow busier. Genevieve returns to her desk. No announcement is made. No credit formally assigned. Her name does not circulate with the solution. The balance of the war begins to shift in ways no one outside this building will ever trace back to her pencil, her smudged margins, her refusal to stop looking at what others dismissed. This is the climax, and it is deliberately small. The turning point of an ocean war does not arrive with banners. It arrives with a woman standing alone at a desk, trusting her eyes over doctrine. The defiance is not against the enemy, but against certainty itself. What is gained is immense. Convoys rerouted, ambushes avoided, submarines hunted instead of feared, lives preserved without ever knowing how close they came to vanishing beneath gray water. What is lost is quieter, recognition, authority, the simple dignity of being believed without proof. Genevieve does not protest. There is work to do, and war does not wait for fairness. In the weeks that follow, the cipher is spoken of as broken. Few mention how. Fewer still mention who first saw the crack. History prefers clean narratives, machines versus machines, minds versus minds. It is less comfortable with stories where insight comes from patience rather than prestige. The resolution settles like dust. Arlington Hall remains a place of shadows and paper. Genevieve continues her work. Pencil replaced. Margins filled again. The war grinds on, now with one less advantage on the enemy's side. An invisible victory achieved without noise. And somewhere in the Atlantic, a ship changes course. Somewhere else, a sailor sleeps through a night he might not have survived. They will never know her name. History will almost forget it too, but the pattern remains. A reminder that wars are not only decided by those who speak the loudest or calculate the deepest, but by those who are willing to notice what everyone else walks past. The pencil rests on the desk. The silence returns. And the cipher, once thought invincible, waits for the next human hand to betray it. The North Atlantic. Steel-gray water rolls beneath low clouds, restless but no longer omnipotent. The wind still cuts. The cold still bites through wool and bone. But something has changed. Convoys move now with a strange confidence, altering course before danger reveals itself. Escorts linger where instinct once urged retreat. And beneath the surface, the hunters hesitate, because for the first time, they are being anticipated. The war at sea is turning. No announcement marks the moment. No single battle claims the shift. It happens quietly, mathematically, invisibly, measured not in victories declared but in absences. Fewer ships lost. Fewer distress calls swallowed by static. Fewer names added to lists that never make the papers. Somewhere far from the ocean, in rooms without windows, the answers are already known. By 1943, the code is no longer a mystery. It is a tool. Messages arrive, are decoded, acted upon, and filed away with ruthless efficiency. U-boat patrol zones are mapped before submarines reach them. Wolf packs dissolve into empty water. The Atlantic, once a killing field, begins to tilt toward survival. Allied commanders trust the intelligence now. They plan with it, rely on it. Entire operations hinge on information that seems almost prophetic. But prophecy implies magic, and this victory is anything but mystical. It is built from paper, fatigue, repetition, and a single human insight that cracked the logic wide enough for armies to pass through. The conflict at this stage is no longer with the enemy. It is with memory. Inside Arlington Hall, the atmosphere has changed. The panic of uncertainty is gone, replaced by relentless routine. The work is louder now, machines humming, clerks moving briskly, analysts processing volume instead of possibility. The breakthrough has been absorbed so completely that it feels as if it had always existed. That is the danger of success. The name behind the discovery fades into classification. Not erased, just buried. Filed under secrecy protocols, institutional shorthand, and the unspoken hierarchy of credit. The system moves forward, and like all large systems, it remembers outcomes better than origins. Genevieve Grotjan is no longer at the center of the room. She's part of the background now. Her work continues, essential but anonymous. There are no interviews, no citations, no medals waiting quietly in drawers with her name engraved. The rising action of this chapter is paradoxical, triumph without recognition. As the Allies gain the upper hand, the human source of that advantage becomes increasingly invisible. Intelligence reports circulate stripped of fingerprints. Commanders praise signals intelligence, as if it were an element of nature, like weather or tide. The war rewards results, not stories. Across the Atlantic, sailors feel the difference without understanding it. Routes that once seemed suicidal now hold. Nights pass without alarms. The mathematics of survival, once cruelly lopsided, begins to even out. Each successful crossing is a quiet miracle built on knowledge no one aboard has clearance to imagine. The climax arrives without ceremony. The Battle of the Atlantic is effectively won. U-boats still sink ships, but no longer with impunity. The Allied supply lines hold. The build-up for liberation accelerates. Factories outpace losses. The enemy adapts too late, fighting shadows cast by decisions already made against them. History will later debate technology, tactics, leadership. It will speak of radar, air cover, improved escorts. All true, all incomplete, because beneath those advancements lies a simpler truth that someone once noticed what others did not and refused to let it go. But by the time victory is undeniable, her role has already slipped from view. The resolution comes after the guns fall silent. The war ends. Cities celebrate. Medals are minted and distributed. Names are read aloud in grand halls. Generals pose for photographs. Intelligence successes are quietly declassified, selectively summarized, carefully framed. The story becomes institutional. Files are sealed. Contributions are blurred together. The narrative simplifies, as narratives always do. There is no space for a young woman with a pencil in the margins when the world is hungry for heroes it can recognize at a distance. Genevieve leaves the work behind as the war recedes into memory. There is no public reckoning, no correction, No moment when history pauses to ask who first opened the door everyone else walked through. The silence she leaves behind is not hostile. It is indifferent. And yet, the question lingers, unspoken but unavoidable. How many victories rest on foundations never named? How many lives are saved by people whose reward is simply that fewer names were needed on memorials? This is the moral weight of invisible triumph. We remember wars through endings, through surrender documents and victory parades. But wars are decided long before that, by individuals who never stand at podiums, by patience instead of force, by attention instead of authority, by those willing to be right without being seen. The Atlantic grows calm again. Decades pass. Ships cross in peace. The water forgets its dead more easily than history forgets its omissions. But the patterns remain, embedded in archives and outcomes. Proof that recognition is not the same as importance. That applause is not the measure of impact. Victory does not always announce itself. Sometimes it slips through quietly, escorted by anonymity, carried forward by institutions that benefit from it without looking back. And somewhere in the long chain of cause and effect, a pencil rests on a desk. Worn, unremarkable, essential. History moves on, but the silence remembers, even when the books do not.